I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, March the 19th, 2013. The parents of murdered Jewish American journalist Daniel Pearl released a statement yesterday following the capture of a former terrorist leader who is believed to have planned their son's kidnapping and murder. Judah and Ruth Pearl said in a statement, "We are gratified with this latest arrest and hope that justice will be served in a timely manner on all of those who were involved in the abduction and murder of our son Danny." As you may have seen on IBA News, Pakistani security officials announced that they arrested Qari Abdul Saeed on Sunday. Saeed had been sought in connection with a slew of terrorist activities, including his suspected involvement in Pearl's slaying. He is notorious for being the former religious leader of the Karachi chapter of a hardline Sunni militant group that has targeted Pakistan's Shiite minority and become an ally of the Pakistani Taliban. Daniel Pearl was South Asia bureau chief for the Wall Street Journal and was researching a story about Islamist militants when he was abducted and killed in Karachi, Pakistan in January of 2002. Today marks the one-year anniversary of the attack at the Otsar HaTorah school in Toulouse, France, that left 3 Jewish children and a rabbi dead. On March the 19th of 2012, radical Muslim Mohammed Merah shot and killed Rabbi Jonathan Sandler, his children 6-year-old Aryeh and 3-year-old Gabrielle, and 8-year-old Miriam Monsonego, the daughter of the school's principal. In 2 separate earlier attacks that same week, Merah shot and killed 3 French paratroopers. The first anniversary of the attacks were marked in France on Sunday, with a silent march followed by a memorial attended by French leaders and leaders of the Jewish and Muslim communities in France. French President François Hollande spoke at the ceremony and said that the fight against anti-Semitism was ongoing. Anti-Semitism hasn't stopped after the tragedy in Toulouse, where children died for the same reason as those of the Veldiv and Drancy, because they were Jews. The French president said, referencing deportation points to concentration camps during the Holocaust. The American Jewish Committee, who has been in contact with the Toulouse Jewish community since last year's attack, issued a statement in solidarity with the community, with Executive Director David Harris saying that while the AJC believes the French government is committed to fighting anti-Semitism, more needs to be done to confront the growing challenge. The United States once again criticized the United Nations Human Rights Council for its continued bias against Israel. U.S. Ambassador to the UNHRC in Geneva, Eileen Donahoe, addressed the council at a debate it was holding yesterday on Israeli settlements and their impact on Palestinians. The debate followed a report from January by a panel of UN investigators who claimed that Israel's, quote, creeping annexation of the West Bank had led to rights violations of the Palestinians living there. Ambassador Donahoe told the council that the item being debated was an example of the blatantly unfair treatment that one UN member state receives in the body. She said the United States remains extremely troubled by this council's continued biased and disproportionate focus on Israel, adding the legitimacy of this council will remain in question as long as one country is unfairly and uniquely singled out under its own agenda item. B'nai B'rith International's representative at the UN in Geneva, Klaus Netter, said in a statement to the Council that the January report was counterproductive. Far from advancing the peace process between the 2 main parties, he said, the fact-finding mission report has only reinforced Israel's doubts about returning to active participation in this council. Israel had severed its ties with the UNHRC because of its bias towards Israel last March. On the eve of President Obama's visit to Israel, a bipartisan group of more than a dozen members of Congress sent a letter to the president calling on him to support increased funding for the Iron Dome missile defense system, saying such a move would speak volumes about the president's commitment to the safety and security of the state of Israel. The letter was spearheaded by Colorado Congressman Doug Lamborn, who is the co-chairman of the Israel Allies Caucus, the only bipartisan pro-Israel caucus in Congress. The letter also applauded Obama's plan to see an Iron Dome in person during his Israel trip, The president will watch a display of the IDF's anti-missile defense systems, including the Iron Dome, which will take place at a specially designated area at Ben Gurion Airport upon the president's arrival in Israel tomorrow. And finally, the Jewish Week reports that the only Jewish contender in the race for New York City's next mayor has dropped out. Newspaper publisher Tom Alon announced yesterday that he will not run in the 2013 Republican primary for mayor, but promised to make his voice heard on education issues through his publications. The former Democrat said, while no longer a candidate, I will continue to passionately and relentlessly pursue a reform agenda as an education activist, a columnist, and blogger, and parent of 3 teenagers. Alon is the son of Holocaust survivors with strong ties to Israel. His departure will make 2013 the first year since 1993 without a Jewish candidate for mayor of New York City. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, March the 19th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader, and I'll be back on Thursday.